Welcome to the next module in the Itachi Uchiha course. Now, we're not going to go into Itachi's story in this module. I want to talk about something a little bit more spectacular. Well, just something more practical that we can actually apply, right? You know, the previous few modules, kind of us just kind of stepping back, being more laid back, kind of chilling, and just looking at Itachi's life, kind of bird-eye view. But now, I kind of, in this module, I want to dig deep. And this is a topic no one has ever talked about Itachi. So, this is the type of stuff that I'm saving for Patreon, right? This is the type of stuff that's like, okay, I can actually apply this and become just as powerful as Itachi, if not greater. So let's just get straight into it. As you can see on the screen, we're saying that the title is Itachi Uchiha Marketing. What does this mean? Now, one thing I noticed when watching Itachi, all right, let's kind of backtrack a little bit, right? Before we knew Itachi was a good guy, who did you think Itachi was? Before you knew Itachi's story, before Kishimoto showed us that Itachi actually had the kindest heart in all of the anime world, right? In all of the Naruto verse, Itachi is the most kind, pure heart ever. Before we knew that, who did we think Itachi Uchiha was? Now, I'm gonna just speak from personal experience. I literally thought Itachi was Hitler, right? Like, all you saw was Itachi's savageness, right? You saw this character who was just evil. All you knew about Itachi was that he was Sasuke's older brother, and he somehow had the temerity to slaughter his own family, his own clan, right? In just cold blood and broad daylight, savage evil. We all thought he was Hitler, but he wasn't. And so this is what I want to talk about in today's module, is the power of self-marketing. Right, and no one is, maybe I can make a video on YouTube about this topic, but no one's ever talked about this about Itachi, at least from my recollection, is self-marketing. Itachi was a genius at perception, right? Influence, persuasion. He was a genius because his awareness was so high, like we've been talking about every single module, his awareness. He was able to know how to shift perception to make himself seem like a person, even if he wasn't that person. He could shift and be any character he wanted to be. He could make anyone perceive him as any character he wanted them to perceive him as. That's powerful. It's extremely powerful. So you have Itachi walking around, you know, he's part of the Akatsuki. Everyone thinks he's a Hitler. He's on the blacklist, right? He's an outcast of society. He's considered a terrorist to all the people, the civilians of the world. They think Itachi's a terrorist, when in reality, he's the nicest guy on the planet and has the purest heart. How was he able to do this? Let's get straight into it. Creating the character. So, let's kind of backtrack. Before we even get into Itachi, you got to realize one thing, guys. Like, every single day that you step out of your house, you are marketing yourself. You are influencing other people, but you're self-marketing yourself. Every time you go to school, every time you go to a sporting event, every time you go to the gym, every time you step out of the house, even around your family, your life is just one giant thing of self-marketing. You're always marketing yourself. Now, unfortunately, even though every human being on the planet is self-marketing themselves, most people aren't doing it consciously. So most people aren't even thinking about, how do I look to other people? You know, not from an insecure way, but from just a conscious, deliberate way. Like, how am I making other people feel when they're around me? How am I presenting myself when I walk in the room? How do I look to other people? How do I carry myself? Most people aren't thinking about those things. They're not really conscious, and they're not deliberate with how they're promoting themselves and marketing themselves. Because most people don't even think of the idea of, I'm marketing myself. So I gotta ask you, when's the last time you thought, okay, how am I self-marketing myself to the outside world, to the external world around me? Because we're all doing it, whether it's subconscious or conscious. I'm just here and I'm making this module so that you become conscious the same way Itachi was, right? So before we even get started, you just got to become conscious of the fact that you're always self-marketing yourself. It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter who you're with, you are always marketing yourself, right? The way you smell, the way you dress, the way you talk, your body language, your energy, your aura, your charisma, right? Your facial expressions, everything about you, your personality. You could just say that personality equals self-marketing. Personality equals self-marketing. Your personality is the marketing that you're giving for your product, which is you. All right, does that make sense? So, just become conscious of that as we go further. So, creating the character. now that you're conscious of the fact that you're always self-marketing, you're always self-promoting yourself, you're always putting yourself out there, whether you're doing it consciously or subconsciously, you can now consciously make the decision, okay, well, if I'm always marketing myself, what type of product do I want to be, right? What type of individual, what type of personality do I want to convey to the external world? And this is where we get into creating the character. So tying this back to Itachi, so we kind of just went through his story. We still got one more episode in Itachi's life story, which we'll cover in the next module. We'll watch that episode together. But from what we saw, Itachi had a very pure heart, right? He was an innocent individual. He was just too smart, too innocent for the world that he lived in, for the shinobi world, right? He was just born into the wrong world, right? But anyways, part of his plan was being exiled from the Hidden Leaf Village. Part of his plan was being known as a terrorist. So he did an atrocious act, right? He committed genocide on his entire clan. So that alone, I mean, you know, he doesn't really have to create a character, create a personality. Like, that alone just makes everyone think, okay, he's a terrorist. But at the root of things, he's a very kind-spirited person. So he had to create this character where he now needs to be known as a terrorist for the rest of his life, right? Because what he didn't do was kill his family and then kill himself, right? He still is alive, and he still has to play this character of an evil individual so that he can make Sasuke strong, because part of his plan, remember, was to make Sasuke hate him so much that Sasuke became stronger than him. That was part of his plan. So Itachi has to maintain this character of, I'm evil, I'm savage, I'm Hitler. So this is where he began to create his character. So we didn't get to see this in the show, but just off common sense, off rip, I'm thinking, well, he had to sit down and deliberately think and create a plan for what type of personality is he going to embody to be this evil character. What type of traits does he have to develop to become this evil character, to maintain that personality? And so you could say Itachi sat down and he was like, okay, well, I need to be very savage in terms of, like, you know, my actions, right? So not hesitating when I need to do something, right? And that's what he was when he was playing an evil character. Another thing, when Itachi was being an evil character, he didn't talk much at all. He kept a very blank poker face at all times. So when, you know, the first time Team 7 runs into Itachi, or when Kakashi and so who are the other Jonin? When the Kakashi and the other Jonin run into Itachi, right? Itachi always maintained that super, like, just blank face, no expression, right? Just straight poker face, like my Levi Ackerman video. And that played a part in his evil character, right? He knew those were traits that he needed to have in order to create that character that he wanted, which was just that evil savage, I'm a terrorist, I'm Hitler. So applying this to ourselves, now that we know that we're always marketing, you have to sit down and you have to think, okay, what character do I want to present myself to the world as, and what traits does that character embody? What traits does that character have? What personality does that character possess? This is what I mean by creating the character. Most people, you got to remember, dude, like, this is kind of common sense, but no one does it. No one sits down, right, for an hour with a notepad and a pen and is like, okay, what personality do I want to convey to the world for my entire life, right? What type of personality do I even want? Do I want to be charismatic? Do I want to be charming? Do I want to be confident? Do I want to be, you know, intense? Do I want to be powerful? Like, what type of aura, energy do I want to give off to the world? You have to sit down and consciously, deliberately execute this, right? Because if you don't, then society is shaping you. Social media is shaping you. I need you guys to sit down and actually create your character, your avatar, your personality for yourself. But first, you have to sit down and decide which character do you want to create. And just like Itachi, you can do it consciously and deliberately, all right? So, next one. Once you've kind of figured out, you know, the character that you want to be. So, for example, like if I were to talk about myself, I could be like, oh, I want to be extreme. I want to be the charming character, or the charismatic character, right? I want to be the dandy or confident or strong, charismatic type of individual. You need to sit down and just kind of find a broad view of the personality that you want. Once you have that down packed, then you can go into the subtleties, the nitty gritties, right? what type of actual traits do I need to embody to become that character? So this is where manipulating emotions come into play. Now, I want to talk about Itachi real quick. It was not easy for Itachi to play this evil character, because as we know, he has one of the purest hearts, not only in the Naruto verse, but in anime. He's one of the most pure souls there is. He's one of the most down-to-earth dudes there is. So it was not easy at all, to say the least. It was not easy for Itachi to play that character right there on the screen with the blank face who's ready to just kill you on sight. You know what I'm saying? Because that just wasn't who he was. But the reason he was able to play that character so well, to where the entire world believed he was truly a terrorist, is because he had complete control over his emotions. He was able to manipulate his emotions at will. I mean, think about it. Like, Jiraiya, Sasuke, and Naruto ran into Itachi. I should have put that clip in here. But think about that episode when Sasuke, you know, he still knew that he still thought rather that Itachi was a terrorist, right? Naruto thought Itachi was a terrorist. Jiraiya thought Itachi was a terrorist, and they run into Itachi, right? They run into Itachi and Kisame. How crazy do you think Itachi felt when he was beating up his younger brother? Because Sasuke was like 12 years old in that episode, and Itachi's just smashing his face in, right? He kneed him in the gut, like just punched him in the stomach. This Sasuke was his most valued and prized possession. He loved Sasuke more than anything, yet he was still able to do that in front of everyone. Why? Manipulating his emotions. Even though deep down inside he probably felt extremely sad, he probably wanted to commit suicide, honestly, because this is not how he wanted either his or Sasuke's life to turn out. He was still able to control himself. And so this is something you're going to have to learn how to do. When you finally sit down and create your character and you're like, okay, I want to possess these characteristics, these traits. Now you need to decide, like, do I have the emotional control to actually switch my emotions to become that character, right? Because most people want to be confident. Most people want to be charismatic. But push come to shove, when they're in a scenario where it's time to be that character, they don't have the emotional stability to actually do it, because one, they're scared of what other people think of them, or they don't believe in themselves, they don't have faith, or they're not willing to put in the work to actually shift their personality, because that takes time. It's not instant. It's a process. So you're going to have to build that ability to control your emotions, to manipulate your emotions. You're going to be feeling one way, but you need to build like emotional alchemy, where you can be like, okay, I'm feeling this way, but I need to change to this emotion so that I can embody this character, so I can present this character to the world, this new character. If you don't have the ability to manipulate your emotions, you're probably going to stay the same character you are right now. You know, you have to have that ability like Itachi did. But that is not easy. I got to stress it enough. It's not easy. So if you can't do it off rip, don't beat yourself up. It's a skill. Manipulating your emotions, controlling over your emotions is just like anything else. It's a form of discipline, and it requires skill, and it requires time. Okay, so it's a process. Okay, but yeah, you have to learn how to manipulate your emotions. That's the only way you're gonna make the switch from the character you are now to the character you want to be or create in the future. And the last thing I want to talk about, and this is extremely powerful, is digital tools for power. Right? How to create an avatar for the world. So the crazy part that we have a little shortcut. We have an easy way out. Right? We have a shortcut. Itachi didn't have this, but we have the internet. And more importantly, we have social media. So this character that you want to present to the world, you, my friend, are living in the 21st century. You have digital tools that allow you to manipulate your character any way you want to present to the world online. Because you have Instagram, you have Snapchat, you have YouTube, right? Now, I'm not saying to lie. I'm not saying to be a fallacy. I'm not saying to lie about who you are, your personality. But what I'm saying is you have digital tools that allow you to literally control how you look to the outside world. Like, if you have an Instagram right now, what does it look like? Most guys on their Instagram, like, they're just uploading the stupidest pics, and they wonder why they don't get any chicks, right? Rhyming accidentally. But it's true. Like, everyone just, like, on your social media, is like, people just upload whatever. Like, they don't even sit and think, like, what do I look like from other people's perspectives? When I post this stupid selfie of me with no shirt on, what do I look like to everyone else? Do I look like a degenerate, or do I actually look charismatic? Do I look classy, or do I look silly? Do I look confident, or do I look like a degenerate? Once again, most people are just doing things with zero conscious awareness, no form of deliberate thinking. They're just doing stuff, just completely in a zombified state. So you have the most powerful tool there is, which is Instagram, which is Snapchat, which is social media. You can literally manipulate exactly how you want your character to be presented to the outside world. Use that effectively, right? So like I said earlier, you want to sit down and consciously decide, what type of character do I want to create to present myself? But you can also say, what type of pictures would I need to present that character? What type of videos would I need to create to present that character, right? So not just what you're doing in your personal life with, in the present moment with other people, but also what are you doing online? Because that's the most powerful form of presenting yourself, because you can slowly and concisely control what you look like. It's extremely powerful. In Itachi, he didn't have that, right? Which is why I'm creating this video, because you can become more powerful than Itachi, right? So those are just little tips and tricks for, creating the character that you want. But even deeper than that, it's more about having the awareness to consciously choose the character that you want, the avatar that you want, the personality that you want. Because most people, their personalities are developed completely subconsciously. Their character, their avatar, the way they present themselves to the world, most people are doing it completely subconsciously. Like, they're not actually manipulating anything. They're not actually consciously deciding what they want to be like. They're just letting society, social media, their family, and the external world decide for them. And I don't want that for you. Itachi didn't want that for himself. Be more like Itachi, right? And consciously create the character that you want.